There comes a moment in every life when we must decide what we truly believe about our source. Many people wake up every morning weighed down by numbers, bills, reports, and voices telling them what is possible and what is not. They look at the economy and feel fear. They look at their job and feel uncertainty. They look at people and feel disappointment. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to believe that their future is controlled by forces they cannot change. But I stand here to tell you something that can set your heart free. Your circumstances are not your source. God is your source. If your peace depends on the market, it will rise and fall. If your confidence depends on people, it will eventually be shaken. If your hope depends on luck, it will disappear when times grow hard. But when your trust rests in God, you stand on unshakable ground. Long before there was money, God was providing. Long before there were systems, salaries, and structures, God was opening doors for His people. The same God who fed Israel in the wilderness without farms, without stores, without income, is still alive today, and He has not lost His power. Some of you have been praying for a financial breakthrough, and you have been looking in every direction except upward. You have been asking, who will help me? Instead of, Lord, what are you teaching me? You have been saying, if only this situation would change. Instead of, God, I know you are greater than this situation. When God opens a door, He does not ask permission from the economy. He does not consult human logic. He does not wait for perfect conditions. He opens doors in famine. He blesses in drought. He provides in places where provision should not exist. Think about how many times you thought it was over, how many times you believed there was no way forward, and yet you are still here. That alone is evidence that God has been sustaining you even when you did not recognize it. The job may have paid the bills, but God gave the strength to work. The opportunity may have come through a person, but God positioned that person in your path. The door may have looked ordinary, but God was the one who unlocked it. We must be careful not to reduce God to a last option instead of our first trust. Too often we try everything else before we kneel. We exhaust our plans, our connections, and our energy, and only then do we cry out to God. But God is not a backup plan. He is the master planner. When you make Him your source, fear loses its grip, because you realize that even if one door closes, God has another. Even if one stream dries up, He can make water flow from the rock. There are people listening right now who feel ashamed because they are struggling financially. They believe their struggle defines them. But God never measures a person by their bank account. He measures the heart. Financial pressure does not mean God has abandoned you. Sometimes it means He is repositioning you. Sometimes it means He is teaching you to trust Him at a deeper level. Sometimes it means He is preparing you for a breakthrough that will not collapse when pressure comes. Do not misunderstand this truth. God being your source does not mean you stop working, planning, or acting wisely. It means you stop worshiping those things. You work, but you trust God. You plan, but you surrender the outcome. You act responsibly, but you do not panic when results are delayed. Because when God is your source, your confidence is no longer tied to immediate results, but to eternal promises. Many people miss their breakthrough because they are focused on the size of the obstacle instead of the greatness of God. They say, the debt is too big, the income is too small, the opportunity is gone. But God has never been intimidated by numbers. He multiplied a small offering to feed thousands. He took a little oil and made it last through famine. He took fishermen and changed the world. What matters is not what you see in your hands, but who you trust with your heart. When God opens a financial door, it often begins with a shift in thinking before a change in income. He breaks the lie that says, I am stuck. He silences the voice that says, this is all I will ever have. He replaces fear with faith and desperation with expectation. Suddenly you stop asking, how will I survive? And you begin to declare, God will provide. And let me tell you something important. No one can shut what God has opened. People may doubt you. Systems may overlook you. Situations may look impossible. But when God decides to bless, opposition cannot cancel it. When God decides to lift, no force can push you back down. The same hand that opened doors for others is reaching toward you right now. Some of you are standing at the edge of a door you do not fully understand yet. It does not look like what you imagined. It may not come in the form you expected. But if God is in it, it will carry peace even before it carries profit. It will stretch you, but it will not destroy you. It will require faith, but it will also reveal God's faithfulness. Stop measuring your future by your past. Stop defining your destiny by your difficulty. Lift your eyes and remember who your source is. The God who brought you this far has not run out of provision. The God who sustained you in lack is able to establish you in abundance. And when He opens the door, it will be clear that it was not by luck, not by chance, not by human strength, but by His hand alone. So stand firm, trust deeply, and walk forward without fear, because the God who is your source has already opened the door before you. Many people pray for a breakthrough, but few prepare for one. They ask God to change their situation, yet they resist allowing God to change them. They want the blessing, but they are not ready for the responsibility that comes with it. And this is a truth that must be spoken with clarity and love. God opens doors, but preparation determines whether you can walk through them and remain standing once you do. Every major move of God in a person's life is preceded by a season of shaping. Before the harvest, there is planting. Before promotion, there is training. Before provision flows freely, character must be formed deeply. We often think preparation is punishment, but in God's hands, preparation is protection. He is not delaying you to hurt you. He is refining you to help you. Because a blessing that arrives too early can crush a person who is not ready to carry it. Some of you have been asking, why hasn't it happened yet? You have prayed, you have believed, and you have waited. But God, in His wisdom, has been working on things you cannot see. He has been teaching you discipline when you wanted speed. He has been building integrity when you wanted increase. He has been training your heart to handle abundance without losing humility, without losing faith, without losing your soul. Preparation often looks ordinary. It does not feel spiritual. It looks like showing up when no one applauds. It looks like managing little things faithfully. It looks like being honest when dishonesty would be easier. It looks like patience in seasons where nothing seems to change. But heaven watches what earth ignores. God pays attention to how you handle what you already have, because that reveals what you will do with more. Many people say they want financial breakthrough, but they are not faithful with small resources. They ask for open doors, but they are careless with current opportunities. They pray for abundance, but they resist correction. God does not reward talent alone. He honors obedience. He does not just bless ability, He blesses alignment. When your habits, your values, and your faith line up with His will, you position yourself for doors that no man can shut. Preparation also requires letting go of wrong thinking. Some of you have carried a poverty mindset for years, even when God has been trying to elevate you. You believe struggle is your identity. You believe lack is your destiny. But God cannot pour new wine into old containers. Before He changes your financial level, He often changes your mental level. He teaches you to think responsibly, to plan wisely, to trust fully. Because breakthrough that comes without wisdom will not last. There are moments when God asks you to prepare in ways that seem unnecessary. He asks you to save when you want to spend. He asks you to give when you feel you have little. He asks you to wait when you want to rush. But obedience in preparation unlocks favor in provision. What you do before the door opens determines what happens after it opens. Look closely at the people God has used mightily. None of them were rushed into blessing. They were prepared in quiet places, in unseen seasons, in moments of testing. And those tests were not meant to disqualify them, but to strengthen them. God uses pressure to reveal purpose. He uses delay to develop depth. He uses discipline to prepare you for durability. Some of you are frustrated because you feel ready, but God knows you are still becoming. Readiness is not just desire, it is maturity. It is the ability to remain faithful when the pressure increases. It is the ability to stay grounded when success arrives. God is not interested in giving you something that will destroy you later. He loves you too much for that. Preparation also involves surrender. You must release control and allow God to direct your steps. Pride delays blessing, but humility accelerates it. When you say, Lord, teach me, instead of Lord, give me, you open yourself to growth that leads to lasting breakthrough. God resists the proud, but He lifts the humble. He entrusts increase to those who know where it came from. Do not despise the season you are in. The job you think is too small may be training you. The situation you think is unfair may be shaping you. The responsibility you feel is heavy may be strengthening you. Every moment is preparing you for what is coming next. Nothing is wasted in God's economy. And understand this, preparation is not perfection. God does not wait until you have everything figured out. He waits until your heart is willing, your spirit is teachable, and your faith is anchored in Him. He knows your weaknesses, but He also knows your potential. What He asks is obedience, not flawlessness. When the door finally opens, it often opens suddenly. What looks like an overnight blessing is usually the result of years of quiet preparation. And when that moment comes, you will realize that the waiting was necessary, the refining was essential, and the process was purposeful. You will walk through that door with confidence, not fear, because God prepared you before He provided for you. So stay faithful, stay disciplined, stay aligned. Your preparation today is making room for the provision God has already planned for tomorrow. There is a quiet enemy that has kept more people from their breakthrough than lack of opportunity, education, or resources, and that enemy is fear. Fear does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It tells you to be careful when God is calling you to be courageous. It tells you to wait when God is saying, move. T convinces you that safety is wiser than obedience, and slowly, door by door, fear keeps you standing still while God has already made a way forward. Faith, on the other hand, is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the decision to trust God in the middle of it. Faith does not mean you understand every step. It means you believe the one who ordered your steps knows where they lead. Many people are praying for God to open a door, but the door is already open. What is missing is the courage to walk through it. Fear often disguises itself as logic. It says, what if this doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I lose what little I have? And those questions sound reasonable, but they are rooted in a belief that God will abandon you if you step forward. Faith asks a different question. What if God is already ahead of me? What if the very step you are afraid to take is the one God intends to use to change your future? Some of you have been standing at the edge of opportunity for a long time. You felt the stirring in your spirit. You sensed the nudge to try again, to apply, to start, to give, to move. But fear reminded you of past disappointments. It brought back memories of failure. It replayed moments when things did not work out. And instead of moving forward, you retreated into what felt familiar, even if it was uncomfortable. Fear prefers familiarity over freedom. But God never calls His people to live imprisoned by fear. He calls them to walk by faith. Faith stretch, SU. It challenges your comfort. It asks you to trust God not just with your prayers, but with your actions. Because faith that never moves is not faith at all, it is only intention. Breakthrough requires motion. Doors do not open for spectators, they open for those willing to step forward. Understand this truth clearly. Fear will always demand proof before obedience, but faith obeys before proof appears. Fear says, show me and I'll believe. Faith says, I believe and I will see. Many miracles are missed because people wait for certainty in a world where God asks for trust. The Red Sea did not part until the people moved forward. Provision did not multiply until someone was willing to give what little they had. Fear also exaggerates risk while minimizing God's faithfulness. It magnifies what could go wrong and forgets how many times God has already carried you through. Look back at your life. There were moments you thought you would not survive, yet here you stand. There were seasons you thought were the end, yet God turned them into lessons. If He was faithful then, why would He fail you now? Some people fear success as much as they fear failure. They are afraid of responsibility, of visibility, of change. They wonder if they can handle what they are praying for. But God does not open doors to expose you. He opens doors to establish you. He does not lead you into blessing to embarrass you, but to equip you. When God calls you forward, He also promises to walk with you. Faith does not deny reality. It places God above it. It acknowledges the challenge, but refuses to let the challenge have the final word. Faith says, yes, this is difficult, but God is greater. It says, yes, I am unsure, but God is faithful. It says, yes, I am afraid, but I will not let fear decide my future. There are moments when faith will require you to act while your hands are shaking and your voice feels weak. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is obedience in spite of it. God is not waiting for you to feel fearless. He is waiting for you to trust Him enough to move anyway. Every step taken in faith weakens fear's hold and strengthens your confidence in God. And here is something you must remember. Fear always focuses on what you might lose, but faith focuses on what God has promised. Fear clings tightly to the present, even when the present is painful. Faith releases control and reaches for what God has prepared. When you choose faith, you are not ignoring risk. You are acknowledging that God is greater than the risk. Some of you are one decision away from change, one act of obedience, one step of faith, but fear has convinced you that waiting is wiser than moving. Yet delayed obedience is still disobedience. God's timing matters. Doors do not stay open forever, not because God is unkind, but because growth requires response. When God invites you forward, it is an invitation wrapped in grace. Faith also requires letting go of the need to fully understand. God rarely explains everything in advance. He reveals just enough for the next step. If He showed you the entire journey, you might turn back in fear. So He asks you to trust Him step by step. Each step reveals the next, and with each step, your faith grows stronger. Do not allow fear to make your world smaller. In God is trying to expand it. Do not allow yesterday's failure to cancel tomorrow's promise. The door God has opened is not meant to trap you, it is meant to free you. And when you step through it, you will discover that God's strength meets you on the other side. So choose faith over fear, step forward with trust, and walk boldly through the door God has opened, knowing He will never lead you where His grace cannot sustain you. When God opens a door of financial breakthrough, it is never only about the amount that enters your hands, it is about the heart that holds it. Many people think blessing is measured by how much they receive, but heaven measures blessing by how well it is managed. God does not release increase carelessly. He watches, He weighs, and He entrusts. And what determines the size and sustainability of a breakthrough is stewardship. Stewardship is the understanding that nothing we possess truly belongs to us. Our time, our abilities, our opportunities, and our resources are entrusted to us for a purpose. When this truth settles in your spirit, it changes how you handle money. You stop seeing it as a source of identity or security and begin to see it as a tool for obedience. God does not bless ownership. He blesses responsibility. Many people ask God for more while being careless with what they already have. They want increase but resist accountability. They want overflow but ignore discipline. But God always begins with what is already in your hands. He asks, can I trust you with this? Because if you cannot manage little with wisdom, more will only magnify disorder. Breakthrough without stewardship becomes bondage, not blessing. Stewardship begins with awareness. It means knowing where your resources go, not guessing. It means planning instead of reacting. It means understanding that every decision you make is shaping your future. God is not glorified by chaos, He is honored by order. When you bring order to your finances, you invite peace into your life. And peace is one of the clearest signs of God's presence. But stewardship is not just about saving and budgeting. It is also about generosity. A closed hand cannot receive. God blesses channels, not containers. When you give with the right heart, you are declaring that your trust is in God, not in money. Generosity breaks the power of greed and fear. It reminds you that God is your provider and you are simply His instrument. Some people are afraid to give because they believe they cannot afford it. But generosity is not about the size of the amount, it is about the posture of the heart. God honors obedience more than numbers. When you give faithfully, even in small ways, you are aligning yourself with heaven's economy. And in God's economy, what is released in faith returns in ways money alone cannot measure. Stewardship also requires gratitude. Ungrateful hearts misuse blessings. When you recognize that everything you have comes from God, you handle it with care. Gratitude keeps pride from growing An increase comes. It keeps you grounded when success arrives. It keeps you from forgetting the seasons when God carried you through lack. Gratitude turns provision into praise. There are people who receive sudden financial breakthroughs and lose them just as quickly. Not because God failed them, but because they were unprepared to steward what they received. Money reveals character, it does not create it. If there is impatience, it will surface. If there is arrogance, it will grow. That is why God often tests stewardship before He releases abundance. He is more interested in your character than your comfort. Stewardship means making decisions that honor God even when no one else is watching. It means choosing integrity over shortcuts. It means paying what you owe, speaking truth, and resisting greed. God does not bless dishonesty even when it appears profitable. What you gain through compromise will never carry God's peace, but what you manage with integrity will carry His favor. Some of you think your breakthrough will solve all your problems, but money does not heal insecurity, and it does not replace wisdom. Without stewardship, increase amplifies stress. With stewardship, even modest resources bring stability. God's goal is not to make you rich and restless, but provided and at peace. Stewardship also involves aligning your spending with your values. Where your treasure goes, your heart follows. When God is first in your heart, it shows in your choices. You invest differently. You prioritize differently. You say no to things that do not serve your purpose. You stop chasing appearances and start building legacy. God blesses those who think beyond themselves. Do not underestimate the spiritual power of faithful management. Every wise decision is an act of worship. Every disciplined choice is a declaration of trust. When God sees that you honor Him with what you have, He knows He can trust you with more. And when increase comes, it will not overwhelm you, because stewardship has prepared you to carry it. Remember this, God's blessing is not proven by abundance alone, but by the ability to manage abundance without losing faith, humility, or purpose. If you want a lasting breakthrough, become a faithful steward today, and God will entrust you with greater things tomorrow. There are seasons in life when it feels like heaven is silent and doors remain shut, no matter how much you pray, work, or believe. In those moments, doubt begins to whisper that God has forgotten you, that your time has passed, that maybe His promises were meant for someone else. But one of the most important truths you must hold on to is this: delay is not denial. God's silence is not His absence, and waiting is not rejection. God's timing is perfect, even when it is painful. We live in a world that celebrates speed, faster results, quicker success, instant answers. And without realizing it, we bring that mindset into our faith. We expect God to move according to our schedule. to answer according to our urgency. But God does not operate on panic. He operates on purpose. What feels slow to you is often precise to Him. What feels late is often right on time. Some of you are frustrated because you did everything you knew to do. You prayed, you trusted, you obeyed, and still the breakthrough did not come when you expected it. But hear this clearly: God has never been early, never been late, and never been wrong. He sees what you cannot see. He knows what you are not ready for yet. And because He loves you, He will not release something that will harm you, even if you beg for it. Waiting seasons are not empty seasons. They are working seasons. God uses delay to refine motives, to deepen faith, and to strengthen character. In the waiting, He removes pride. He breaks dependence on people. He teaches you to trust Him when there is no evidence of progress. Because a breakthrough that arrives without inner strength will not last when pressure comes. Many people would have ruined their blessing if God had answered too early. They were not emotionally ready. They were not spiritually grounded. They were not disciplined enough to sustain what they desired. So God, in His mercy, said not yet. Not because He was withholding good, but because He was protecting them from collapse. Delay also exposes what you truly trust. When things do not move quickly, do you grow bitter or better? Do you complain or continue to believe? Do you walk away or draw closer to God? Waiting reveals whether your faith is rooted in God or in outcomes. And God is far more interested in your faith than your comfort. There are moments when God allows delay because He is aligning multiple things at once. He's preparing you, preparing others, and preparing circumstances to come together at the right moment. You may only see one piece of the puzzle, but God sees the whole picture. If He moved when you wanted, something essential would be missing. Think about how many times you wanted something that, looking back now, would have destroyed you. Think about doors you prayed would open that never did, and later you realized they were never meant for you. God's no protected you. God's weight shaped you. God's timing saved you from pain you could not see at the time. Waiting also teaches humility. It reminds us that we are not in control, and that is not a weakness, it is freedom. When you stop trying to force outcomes, you make room for God to work. Forced doors bring stress. God-opened doors bring peace. And peace is often the confirmation that God's timing has arrived. Some of you are tired of waiting. Your faith feels stretched. Your hope feels fragile. You wonder how much longer you can hold on. But understand this: God never stretches you without strengthening you. The waiting that feels unbearable is producing endurance. The silence that feels heavy is deepening your trust. And when the breakthrough comes, you will be grateful God did not rush the process. Delay does not mean God is inactive. He is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot imagine. Just because you do not see movement does not mean nothing is happening. Roots grow in hidden places before fruit appears above ground. And the deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. There is also purpose in learning contentment before abundance. If peace only comes with increase, then increase becomes your master. But when you learn to trust God in lack, abundance becomes a blessing, not a burden. God wants to give you more without taking Himself away in the process. Do not compare your timing to someone else's. God's plan for you is custom made. What came early for someone else might crush you. What came late for you will arrive with strength, wisdom, and stability. Comparison breeds impatience, and impatience leads to poor decisions. Trust the pace God has chosen for you. When the door finally opens, it often opens suddenly. What felt like years of waiting turns into a moment of favor, and you will realize that every delay prepared you to walk through that door without fear, without pride, and without losing your faith. You will carry the blessing well because the waiting taught you how. So do not give up in the delay. Do not lose heart in the silence. God's timing is shaping something far greater than you can see. And when His moment arrives, it will be worth every season you had to wait. When God opens a door of financial breakthrough in your life, it is never meant to stop with you. Blessing in God's hands always carries a purpose beyond personal comfort. From the beginning, God has used provision as a testimony. a living message that declares His faithfulness to a watching world. What He places in your hands is often meant to flow through your hands, touching lives you may never fully know. Many people think financial breakthrough is proof of their ability, intelligence, or effort. But when God is truly the source, the outcome points back to Him. Your story becomes evidence that God still provides, still restores, still lifts people from places of limitation into places of purpose. And in a world filled with fear, debt, and despair, that testimony matters more than you realize. Some of you have been through seasons where it was clear that only God could have sustained you. There was no logical explanation for how you made it through. And now, as God begins to shift your circumstances, He is preparing to use your journey to encourage others. Your breakthrough carries credibility because it was born in struggle. People listen to stories that have scars. God does not bless His people just so they can live comfortably while others suffer silently. He blesses so they can beck home living reminders of hope. When others see what God has done in your life, it challenges their despair. It lifts their faith. It reminds them that their situation is not final. Your breakthrough becomes an invitation for someone else to believe again. This is why humility is so important when increase comes. Pride turns blessing into self-glory, but humility turns blessing into ministry. When you acknowledge God openly, you protect your heart from arrogance and keep your testimony pure. You do not have to preach with words alone. Your life speaks louder than any sermon. There will be moments when God prompts you to give, to help, to support, or to stand with someone who is struggling. These moments are not interruptions, they are assignments. God strategically positions His blessings so they can reach places of need. When you respond in obedience, you become a partner in God's work. And there is no greater honor than being used by God to bless someone else. Understand this clearly. Generosity multiplies impact. What you keep may bring temporary comfort, but what you release in faith produces eternal fruit. God has a way of entrusting more to those who hold loosely what they have, not because they are careless, but because they understand that God is the true owner of everything. Your testimony is not only about what you gained, but about how you remained faithful along the way. People are watching how you handle success just as much as they watched how you endured hardship. When they see integrity, compassion, and gratitude in your life, they recognize that your breakthrough came from God, not greed. There will also be times when your obedience does not make sense to others. They may question your generosity or your priorities, but you are not called to be understood. You are called to be faithful. God uses willing hearts more than impressive resources. Even small acts of obedience can carry great influence. Financial breakthrough gives you influence. Whether you seek it or not, influence can be dangerous if it is not surrendered to God. That is why constant dependence on Him is essential. Stay rooted in prayer. Stay grounded in gratitude. Stay aware that everything you have can change, but God remains faithful. Some of you fear that blessing others will leave you lacking, but God is not a limited source. You cannot outgive Him. When you align your life with His purposes, provision flows with peace. God knows how to replenish what is poured out in obedience. Remember, your breakthrough did not begin with money. It began with faith, and it will not be sustained by wealth, but by continued trust in God. As long as He remains your source, your testimony will remain powerful. So walk humbly, give generously, and live faithfully, because what God has done for you is not just a blessing. It is a testimony meant to bring hope to the world.